Arsenal 3, Real Madrid nil. I can barely believe that I am sat here saying that this morning, recording this podcast after possibly one of the best nights in the Emirates era for Arsenal, in a season where the Premier League has felt like a struggle, a toil, a battle and a grind. The Champions League has been a salvation for Arsenal Football Club, and last night was the pièce de résistance of that salvation. This is the match review of Arsenal 3, Real Madrid nil. I can't believe it. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Arsenal Unfiltered, your 3 times a week dose of Arsenal coverage with me, your host Mark. Thank you so much for listening, and wherever you are, I hope you are still enjoying last night's 3-0 victory over Real Madrid, an incredible result. The preview pod has had so much love from you guys, the preview pod of that game, so I just want to say a big thank you if you listened to that or any of the other episodes. It really does mean the world, and we are getting people from all over the world listen. We've had our first listener from New Zealand, we've had a listener from I believe Ghana now as well, so it's all very, very exciting, growing all the time, really. Let's talk about it then, because it's 6:43, kind of less than 12 hours after the game now. I am completely in disbelief, and it was a very weird feeling for me last night because I was so excited for the game the whole week in the build-up, and then I was watching it and we got to 3-0 and I had this very strange feeling of like joy, excitement, but also this like kind of weird levelness. I don't know how to describe it, but it was almost that I can't believe this. What am I watching? Am I dreaming? Like this kind of like feeling in the back of my brain where I'm like settled almost by the fact that what I'm watching is so unbelievable. It was an incredible evening, incredible result, and I think it's one of the best Emirates nights ever. I've been trying to think this morning. I actually Arsenal a few years ago did a kind of top 50 Arsenal moments. I went scrolling through that. We've had some fantastic nights in the Champions League. One that was I remembered from going through that was the 5-1 against Inter. Of course, that's huge. The first time we played Real Madrid, the 1-0 in the Bernabeu, absolutely massive. But in terms of the Emirates and home games, the one that really stands out before this is the 2-1 against Barcelona. Andre Arshavin scores the winner, of course. But I think this tops it. You know, that felt like we kind of scraped through against Barcelona, the superb Barcelona, of course, in that game. This one was a domination. Of course, the first half I will speak about, that was a little bit more even, but in the second half we were right on top of them. We really ran the show. Declan Rice ran the show. What a performance from him. And I was thinking, you know, are there any other great Emirates evenings to top this? We've had some fantastic ones in recent years. 5-0 against Chelsea is one of my favourites. We've obviously had 5-1 versus City just this season. But then I went back and thought, okay, well, Champions League's been good to us this year. The 7-1 against PSV was away. The 5-1 against Sporting was away. So, you know, some of the results we've had, I mean, the Champions League has been fantastic to us this year, but some of the results we've had have been away. So, you know, for the fans to really get to experience one like we did with the City result, this is absolutely incredible. And I really can't think of many better evenings inside the Emirates Stadium at all. I would probably put it up against a fair number of results at Highbury, you know, in the modern era at least. We've had some fantastic results there as well. But we are a number of our kind of top performances that we think about in our history are away from home. Thinking about the Wiltord goal, that was Old Trafford, winning the league at White Hart Lane. Having this result in our own stadium is just, it's incredible, and gutted that I couldn't be there, but it looks like all the fans that were in the stadium did just a fantastic job. The club did a fantastic job of getting the atmosphere up and ready for it. Everyone had those bags which were used as banners. There was pyrotechnics beforehand, and the atmosphere sounded incredible, absolutely incredible. The commentators refer to it multiple times, but the one for me is when the Champions League music came on. Arsenal were just drowning that out with songs. You could barely hear the Champions League music because we were doing a rendition of Ole Ole Ole. Just wild, wild. Before I get into the game, just a couple of comments really. One, the confidence that this team should take from that result. Not just for this season, because we think the league's done, and even with such an incredible result, the Champions League is still a massive, massive ask for us to win that. So, but I think as a group, Mikel Arteta spoke in his pre-match conference and after the game about having to be convinced that we can win this game. And Declan Rice mentioned that in his comments after the game. This idea that we are, as a group, we are convinced we can win the big games, the big moments. And I think we've done that, last night and over the last few seasons, winning against big teams, beating Liverpool finally, beating Manchester City finally. So there's been a number of moments where we've overcome those barriers and we did have that conviction that he spoke about. But one against Real Madrid, they are the top table of European football, the very top table. Barcelona, Real Madrid, Manchester City, Bayern Munich, those teams have been, in the last kind of 10 years, a bit above everyone else. It's very difficult to best those teams. Real Madrid have won Champions Leagues on Champions Leagues on Champions Leagues. So to go into a game like that, convinced that you can win it and then actually win it, the confidence that this group of players can take from that. And I think, staying on that line of being convinced you can win things, they should be able to take that and play that out everywhere they go. Premier League games, Champions League games, that kind of result is one that says we can beat anyone. We can beat a team that has Kylian Mbappe, Bellingham, Modric, Vinny Jr., Courtois, who was magnificent despite conceding 3 goals last night. It's something that we should absolutely take confidence in. And just a word on Mikel Arteta. The players will rightly get the pundits for last night. I thought, to a man, the players were absolutely brilliant. But Mikel Arteta 100% sets the culture in this club. He sets the standard. And last night, we reaped the benefits of all of that. All of the work Mikel Arteta has done has led us to nights like last night. And Mikel Arteta gets a terrible rap for no reason. Absolutely no reason. Weird tangent. I saw BBC did an analysis of how long managers spend outside their penalty area. I just thought, Jesus Christ, what are we doing? Why are we analysing managers like this? And I think it was clear to, get the narrative about some of them. The ones that they don't like, and I include more than just Mikel Arteta in there, but obviously he's part of that group that kind of wander out the technical area. It's like, why are you doing that? Why does it matter? And like I say, he just gets a bad rap on stuff like that for absolutely no reason. And you watch last night, and you watch players like Jakub Kiwior, Miles Lewis-Skelly, players who Miles Lewis-Skelly wasn't even a first team option at the start of this season. He's just produced an absolutely brilliant performance against Real Madrid. Jakub Kiwior, sort of a fourth choice centre-back, has not played anywhere near the amount of minutes that he would have needed or wanted going into this game. And just steps up, produces a really good performance. A couple of shaky moments, which we'll come on to, but a really good performance generally. Some massive moments from him. Mikel Arteta is the coach that has set those players up to be able to do that. He's taken Declan Rice and turned him into a proper worldwide superstar. He's guided Bukayo Saka to be the player that we rely on in games like this. I just think he really needs huge credit for last night. Huge credit. And he set up that rallying call for the fans in the stadium. He said, come and play the game with us. And it seems like they answered in the most electric fashion. He really re-established the connection between the club, the players, and the crowd in that Emirates Stadium. And now we have lights like last night, which, to have been there, if you were lucky enough to have a ticket, I mean, I'm so jealous of you. I really am. What an evening. And you've got to say, Mikel Arteta is the architect of all of that sort of stuff. All of that sort of stuff. Let's start and talk about the game then, because it was a magnificent display of football from Arsenal. I'm actually going to start in the second half, because where else could we start but with Declan Rice and his unbelievable pair of free kicks. Now, we've not scored a free kick in a very, very long time. I think the last one we had was maybe a direct one against PSG from earlier this season. I've been trying to rack my brain and think about it. But before that, I think it might have been Martin Odegaard versus Burnley in like 2021. So like it's been a long time, and we often bemoan the Martin Odegaard slap straight into the wall and say, why is Declan Rice, why is Bukayo Saka not taking these? If Saka is above Odegaard in the corner pecking order, he should be taking the free kicks. If Rice is above Odegaard in the corner taking pecking order, he should be on those free kicks. And Declan Rice proved exactly why last night. I mean, let's say the first one is very good. It's really nice the way he doesn't try and lift it over the wall. He just curves it round them. And I've watched it a couple of times back. Of course I have. Everyone has. I've watched it a couple of times back, and I think on first watching you think, oh well, maybe the wall's cowered or turned away there, and it's given a bit of space for Rice to feed it round, but it's actually not the case. So on the replay, you can see, I think it's Valverde on the right hand side of the Real Madrid wall. Yeah, he turns his back just a touch and just going to freeze it. But actually, wow, yeah, that ball starts so far wide of the goal and so far wide of the wall and just bends back round. And Courtois has absolutely no hope. Absolutely no hope in hell. And Courtois, look, I think he had a very, very good game. We'll talk about some of his saves in the first half coming up, of course. But he's also huge. The bloke is huge. Like, he must be towering at like well over 6'4", must have a huge wingspan. And Declan Rice has just put it in the one spot that he can't get to. It's hit with so much pace, so much swerve. You think, wow, that's a goal that's going to take some bettering. And then 13 minutes later, he does it again. I mean, it's just completely wild to me that Declan Rice has done this twice in one game. It's an anomaly to score a free kick once in a game. It's a miracle to score two. And to score a free kick as good as the first one and then score what I think is a far better free kick is just quite ridiculous. Quite ridiculous. Now, I guess the first one is technically a hair further out. Just going to look at the shot map. Yeah, it's technically a hair further out. But the way the second one ends up in the absolute top corner, and there is no further that ball can go right or up. If it goes right or up any further, it's hitting the bar and maybe ricocheting out. The whip on this second one is just tremendous, and the reverse angle is a thing of beauty. He's had this in him, I feel, for a long, long time. We've watched him deliver corner after corner after corner that have been pinpoint, perfectly accurate, and just delightful. I mean, I'm just watching it again. That's just outrageous. It almost hits the side netting, It almost hits the side netting. Yeah, we've watched him deliver corner after corner to pinpoint accuracy, and he has done such a good job with that. To see him do it on a free kick now, he'd never scored a direct free kick before in his career. 390 odd career games he's had, he'd never scored one, and then he goes and does that. What it actually reminded me of is, do you remember the goal against West Ham? He scored in the 6-0 a little while ago. Just that kind of long range curling, rasping shot. He's got that in him. He's done it a number of times. Did it against Chelsea. Slightly different scenario with the goalkeeper out of the goal. 2 last night. Just incredible. And I have said a number of times when I've been discussing this summer's transfer window and what's going to come up, I've said a number of times, I feel like as soon as you're paying more than £100 million for a player, it's a massive risk. And 9 times out of 10, you don't deliver on that risk. Like, you don't get the results that £100 million is worth. We paid £105 million for Declan Rice. I genuinely think he is one of a smattering of £100 million plus players who genuinely deserve to be in that price bracket. He is so good, and I was going to do general performances later, but I'm going to come on to his performance just right now. Really, forget the free kicks. I think the commentator said this, and I think it's a really good point. Just forget the free kicks, forget the goals. It's an incredible performance from Declan Rice. He really is stepping up in these big moments when we need him to. When we need a player like him who costs so much money to be on it and to be, at his best, he is doing it. Completed 90% of his passes last night. Obviously, the 2 goals from 5 shots, probably could have had more goals. Had 9 touches in the opposition box. I think that is the highest of the whole game for anyone. And I'm just going to pull up his duels number because I'm presuming that is going to be exceptional as well. Actually, not that good. Okay. He 33% of his duels won, so not the best there. But, for me, I felt like he played incredibly well. Fotmob gave him a 9 for his 2 goals. Yeah, he found himself in really good positions. And, of course, like I mentioned, Courtois was really good in the first and second half. And at the end of the first half, Declan Rice forced a really good save from him, from that header, low down to Courtois' right, and that was a decent chance, but Courtois made a great save, and it could have been 3 for Declan Rice. It was 3 for Arsenal, however, and I mean, we're talking about some unbelievable finishes today, aren't we? Mikel Merino, it's not quite the Declan Rice level, but it is some finish. We had a nice long move up kind of across the whole pitch, really. And then Miles Lewis-Skelly, who again I thought was fantastic, come on to him in a bit. He provides the assist with a wonderful pass. I want to talk first, before we talk about the finish, I want to talk about the movement from Mikel Merino. I want to talk about just how brilliant he has been as a makeshift striker. That guy has been let's go back further. He's been brought into Arsenal as a left-sided 8, probably playing second fiddle to Declan Rice. He knows that when he comes in. He has an injury to start with. He has a troubled start when he comes on in games, scores that goal against Liverpool. Everyone thinks, okay, I can see it now. He's arrived. Doesn't really get going. And everyone, especially in January, is looking back at that summer window going, whoa, we made a big mistake going for Merino and Calafiori, didn't we? We really should have gone and got someone else. Why did we go for Merino? Why did we spend all this money on players that we already have good first team choices for? So, that's got to be tough for him. That noise will, they're professional athletes. I'm sure they're able to drown it out, but he'll be aware that was being said in the mainstream media and stuff like that. He's been asked to go up top, and I believe it's now 6 goals in 10 games up top. If we'd paid 50, 60 million for Ollie Watkins and he'd scored that, we'd all be going, oh, what a great decision that was. Mikel Merino's done it, and he did it last night in just brilliant fashion. That movement, okay, for the goal. So Miles Lewis-Skelly he picks up the ball, he drives, he takes 1 step into the box. As he takes that step, the YouTube highlights are really crap because they don't show it in enough length. But as he takes that step, Mikel Merino is surrounded by Real Madrid players. It looks like it's it's definitely Rudiger, one of them, maybe Alaba, the other. And he just drops off them. His movement is so sharp. He's not the quickest guy, but his movement's really good. And he drops off into this space, kind of on the edge of the area. Those defenders don't know, do I go with him? Do I stay where I am? So they have a second of doubt. Rudiger comes out eventually, but it's too late. The pass is a little bit behind him, but it doesn't matter for Mikel Merino. His left foot swings across the ball, clips it perfectly, and it is unsavable for Courtois. Again, a massive goalkeeper, a top class, world class goalkeeper has no chance. No chance. This goal is a pure number 9 finish, and on Prime Video, they had Alan Shearer on the comms. He was the purest of pure number 9s, and he was talking about how good that finish is. The movement is fantastic. The strike is brilliant, and that man deserves so much credit for what he's done since he moved up front and what he's done at Arsenal in his time. Of course, the second half was wrapped up with a wild moment from Camavinga as he got his second yellow card for kicking the ball away. So that has now happened to someone against us, which is a good thing. That's kind of evened it up maybe. But unfortunately, it was in the 94th minute, and Camavinga was already suspended for the next leg because he had a yellow card. So I don't think we have really gained any advantage there, but I think it was reminiscent of what we'd managed to do to Real Madrid. How many teams give Real Madrid head loss? Not many. So it was a nice moment to finish the game, proving that we really had gotten under their skin. Just before I take a little break, I just want to talk about how in the first half, the chances Real Madrid were getting compared to the second half, it's just an unbelievable turnaround from us, really. Real Madrid had a number of shots in the first half, a number of decent chances. But in the second half, I cannot remember. I'm just scrolling through some of the shots. Yeah, there are very few shots in the second half for Real Madrid. They had 9 shots overall. I think they had 3 of those in the second half. Just double checking that. It looks about right. We were giving them chances. They were getting opportunities. Mbappe had a chance, which Raya saved in the first half. But in the second half, we just locked them down. And I really cannot think of a moment that Real Madrid had in the second half that I was like, ooh, dear, that's not good, is it? Whatever Mikel Arteta said at half-time changed the level, because I think we went from being in a chess match with them. That's how I described the first half. We were in a real chess match of, we were doing it fantastically off the ball, kind of controlling them with our shape, pushing them out away from our goal. The way we fell back into our block, set up in the 4-4-2, and then the press. That press was as good as I've ever seen Arsenal press last night. We just picked exactly the right moment to go. Ødegaard was conducting it, making sure everyone was in the right spot at the right time. And we just moved them out slowly, steadily, didn't rush it. And I thought it was so good, and forced them to go long a couple of times, which Saliba and Timber just dealt with. They just wrapped it up. So, I thought that was very impressive. But it was a chess match, and Real Madrid were still getting chances. We were gifting them some chances. In the second half, like I say, Mikel Arteta said something at half-time. Our level jumped. It jumped up another 2 rungs on that ladder from a good first half, an impressive display where I think we proved we deserved to be at the table with Real Madrid. That's how I felt about that first half. It was like, okay, you're not going to best us here. You're in a game, Real Madrid. Welcome to the Emirates. The second half was more of a kind of feeling of, I go back to what we said at the start. Not just you're in a game, but we were convinced we could win, and almost, I go as far as to say, we were convinced as we should win. That this was our game to lose, and we weren't going to do that. We were going to win this game no matter what. A quite incredible turnaround. That's been 24 minutes essentially of the first half. So I'm going to take a little, first half of this podcast, second half of the game. I'm going to take a little break. When I come back, I'm going to discuss some of the other moments in the game that could have gone very, very differently. I want to talk about the individual performances as well, and then do stars and under pars, but I really think I'm going to struggle for under pars this week. Hello everyone, thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you're like me, you finished watching an Arsenal game and you're already looking for the next bit of Arsenal coverage you can find. If that sounds like you, follow or subscribe to Arsenal Unfiltered on your podcast app of choice right now to make sure you don't miss a single episode from me. I'm here 3 times a week, reviewing matches and covering Arsenal news, and I'm so excited to have you all here as well. Thank you very much. Hello and welcome back to this match review episode of Arsenal 3, Real Madrid 0. Still in shock, still in disbelief, even though I've just spent 24 minutes in the first half discussing our goals and everything that went on, I just want to talk about a couple of the other moments from the game that were really interesting. And I've already touched on one, that double save from Courtois at the end of the first half. I mean, it is wonderful, and it would have been a really good way to go in at half time. I've written, just in capital letters, huge double save. Timber obviously crosses the ball. It's a great cross from Jurrien Timber. I had wanted us to do that a little bit more. I felt like we were really looking for the perfect chance to score. And at this point, Timber just said, I'm just going to test them. I'm going to test Rudiger. I'm going to test Asensio. And as that ball came in, Declan Rice got ahead of it and forced a massive save from Courtois down to his right. I don't think Declan Rice can do any more. It's in a pretty good spot from him. And obviously it falls to Martinelli. He leaps up, Courtois does, and produces another fairly good save. And I don't think Martinelli can do much more. It's sort of bouncing at him. It's on his left foot. He does quite well to get it on target, is my initial feeling. And, you know, you think if a big keeper like that has gone sprawling down to save low to his right-hand side, the thing you have to do is get it on target. And if he gets up and saves it, fair play to him. That's what happened. It was a massive double save. There was another amazing moment in the second half where I actually think it was after the first Rice free kick, but before the second one, where there was another moment. I would say it's not quite a double save, because I believe Alaba is part of it. But technically, it's 3 blocks on the line. So Mars Lewis-Skelly doing his thing, driving through Real Madrid players, gets the ball to Gabriel Martinelli, kind of just squeezes it through Camavinga and I believe Asensio eventually. Yeah, or Valverde, sorry. It ends up with Martinelli. Martinelli takes a snapshot. Loved his performance last night, by the way. Thought he looked really dangerous. And I like to see him take shots early, because he doesn't do enough of that for me. It's a good save from Courtois. That's not the best save he's going to make all evening. But the ball comes out to Merino. Alaba makes a massive block. Courtois is again on the floor. The ball ends up with Merino again. It's 2 great strikes from Merino. His ball striking is very impressive for a player of his size that we didn't think was that technically good. And Courtois makes a humongous save once more. A humongous save. So, look, this could have been a lot more. We created some really good chances. I think we beat them on XG kind of 1.5 to 0.5. We really did have the measure of this Real Madrid team. And there was another chance kind of fairly early on where... Yes, sorry, I was looking for my notes. Saka got down the right-hand side. It was probably the first time he'd really gone at Alaba. And made Alaba think about, okay, he can go right here. He's not just going to check back in and pass it. He went round him. Sorry, it was Bellingham. He went round him on the outside and put in an unbelievable cross with his right foot. The Real Madrid goalkeeper couldn't quite reach it. There were no defenders who fancied poking a leg at it. And genuinely, I think if we have Kai Havertz or Gabby Jesus, a proper number 9, that's a goal. It's absolutely a goal, and probably felt like it should have been a goal. And at that point, obviously we don't know what Declan Rice is going to do in the rest of the game. You're thinking, oh, that's a big opportunity missed. We also had potentially a shout for a penalty. A real good shout for a penalty. They looked at it for a long time. For me, it's not a penalty. But in UEFA Champions League, we've seen some very strange handballs given. It was from the opportunity down the left on the 12th minute, where Martinelli broke down the left-hand side of his player, put a cross in, and Declan Rice arrives in the box. Again, another big chance for Declan. Arrives in the box, has a left-hand shot. It's very close to Asensio, hits his arm, and that stops the ball from going in, of course. But I think it's just too close to him. It ends up with a Thomas Partey shot, and then they check the penalty. Real Madrid had a couple of chances. The biggest one, I would say, is on the 30th minute. Bellingham picks Jurrien Timber's pocket and sends a great pass through for Kylian Mbappe. He gets into his position, really. You know, it looked like Henry running through, but his finish is pretty poor and just goes straight at David Raya. It's a good save from Raya. Let's talk individual performances, and let's do stars and underpars. I'm going to start by saying there are no underpars. You know, I think to a man, the team was absolutely brilliant. Now, he went with the team that I predicted he would go with, but not the team I wanted him to go with. I wanted Ben White to start. Ben White to start at right back, Timber to go right centre back, and Saliba to go over to left centre back. So I was a little, not surprised, but a little worried when that came out. But I want to start my discussion of the kind of individual performances. They're all stars for me. Okay, from last night, all 11 players who started the game hit the star mark for me. And we can throw Kieran Tierney on in that discussion. We can throw Trossard on in that discussion as well. But for the players that started the game, let's talk about Kiwior and Saliba, because that's where I predicted, this might be a step too much for Kiwior. I wanted our best players on the pitch for the biggest game of the season. That would include Ben White, of course. But he went with Kiwior. He went with a left-footed centre-back, as I thought he would. And there was a shaky moment for Kiwior to start the game. Missed a touch. Mbappe was allowed in and had a long-range shot, which Raya dealt with easily. That would have been the worst way to start if a mistake from Kiwior had led to a goal. He also had a kind of sloppy pass across to Saliba that wasn't quite hit hard enough, or wasn't at quite the right angle, which gave Real Madrid an opportunity to go through. Luckily, they were offside. So it wasn't a flawless performance, but I have to say there were also a number of moments where he played a couple of very good passes forward. There was a big tackle / block on Mbappe. And ultimately, I often think you can tell by the reaction of the crowd when a player gets the ball what they're feeling about them. And Jakub Kiwior was picking up the ball, looked confident, looked like he could spray passes, looked like he was going to contribute to this game in a massive way. And I said after the Everton game, I thought he'd played well, minus one moment for the kind of in the build-up to the penalty. And I'm going to say the same. I think he played really well, minus those two moments I spoke about. I barely noticed him, and that's what I want from a squad player centre-back who comes in. I don't want to notice Jakub Kiwior. I don't want to look and think, God, there's a big Gabriel-shaped hole in that defence. He did his job. He did a really good job. And Rodrigo on that side got no change out of him and Mars Lewis-Skelly. He was eventually hooked for Brahim Diaz. Mbappe didn't really peel over there. He decided that when he did peel over there, he didn't get anything out of him. So it's quite incredible, and I have to talk about William Saliba. Boy, I mean, his positional sense defensively is unbelievable. There was a moment where Vinny Jr. got through, and Saliba is running. He's trying to find his spot between him, Vinny Jr. and Mbappe. Vinny Jr. hits a cross, and Saliba's just positioned himself in the perfect position. Some people are going to say, look, Vinny Jr. should have crossed with his left foot. It's not a good cross. Saliba right there is finding the exact pace to run at, the exact spot to put himself to stop the cross, the perfect cross that Vinny Jr. can see. If Vinny Jr. plays it any further left than Saliba knows David Raya is going to get it. If he plays it any further right of Saliba, he knows that it's going to be out of Mbappe's path. So Saliba is running at the perfect pace. That's not a bad cross. That is first class defensive positioning. Absolutely brilliant. And Saliba all night I just thought was really impressive, and in a junior kind of defence. He had Kiwior and Mars Lewis-Skelly to the left of him. He will have been doing a lot of work helping those guys out. I think Saliba shone last night. Three other players that shone, and I've referred to them as Blue Sky as the Arsenal enforcers, but they're also the players that always take the ball when Arsenal need them to. And that is Jurrien Timber, Declan Rice and Thomas Partey. Obviously Rice's goals, we've already spoken about that. I'm not going to talk about that again. But his general performance, he peeled out to that left-hand side so many times to pick up the ball. Thomas Partey, that was an unbelievable performance from him. Not only did he put in some big tackles and some good interceptions, I thought the way he passed the ball last night was mind-boggling. Like, he was a picture of composure. He made 94% of his passes. He had 100% accurate long balls. And he just ticked this team over and over and over. I I can't say enough good things about his performance. 7 touches, seven passes into the final third. He was the most composed player on the pitch. He did not look like the occasion bothered him at all. And Jurrien Timber, another player who every time Saliba needed someone to pass the ball to, he was there giving an option. Every time David Raya needed an option, he was there giving an option. And boy, can that guy tackle. I mean, it's just outrageous. Jurrien Timber's defensive abilities are just fantastic. Recovered the ball 5 times, won 75% of his tackles, an interception, a block, a clearance, 8 defensive actions. It was an absolutely brilliant defensive performance. The one I loved the most was there was a moment early in the game, we were attacking down the right wing. He was part of that attack, and he kind of lost the ball, didn't quite connect with Ødegaard. Real Madrid picked the ball up from us, and he just snapped back in for a tackle and was like, "No, you're not transitioning on us here." He has got these go-go gadget legs that in tackles, in moments where he's being tackled as well, you think, oh, there's no way he's getting the ball there, or there's no way he's coming out with the ball. And he just rakes the ball in from so many different angles. And I thought he was really good on the ball as well. Probably not quite. I doubt he's got the stats of like a Thomas Partey. Oh no, he does. He made 94% of his passes and 8 passes into the final third. Wow, that's wild. My eye test therefore was right. It did feel like he was really good on the ball. And maybe I was just doubting defenders generally on how good their passing stats are. That's incredible. What a player. 3 more people I want to talk about. I'm going to start with Gabriel Martinelli and Bukayo Saka. You could tell how fearful Real Madrid were of these guys. Not often you see the likes of Bellingham tracking back to double up on someone, but that's what Bukayo Saka did to Real Madrid. He really, really pushed them back. He had some really dangerous moments. And of course, he won those free kicks. Really sensible play. The first one where he kind of runs across the whole team, and Alaba's going with him, and then he makes sure he gets himself in a good position, and then engages the defender. Absolutely brilliant. He went right, he went left. He looked rusty to start with, I thought, but the moment he put that kind of low cross in that I spoke about earlier, I thought he went to another level at that point. It was almost like he put that cross in and went, oh, okay, I remember how to do this. I've been off for 4 months, but I remember what I need to do and how to do it. And it was just a great performance from him. And I mentioned him a little bit earlier, but I want to spend some time on Gabriel Martinelli. I thought he looked really dangerous down that left-hand side and was probably unlucky not to have at least a goal contribution. He had a couple of moments where he had some good shots. We've spoken about 2 of them. The one from the first double save from Courtois, and then he was involved in the other one as well. I think Martinelli's put in some good performances over the last 2 or 3 games. Obviously didn't get his goal last night, which was a shame for him. But I thought overall it was really encouraging from his point of view, and he kept turning his man around. That's the thing that Gabriel Martinelli needs to make sure he is doing. He must make sure that every single time he has got the ball, he is turning his man and getting him running at his own goal. When he does that, he's a very, very difficult proposition to stop. I think he had the highest XA of anyone on the pitch. I'm just going to scroll through, 0.51. So he made some great chances for us last night. A couple of really good crosses. I thought he was brilliant. But the final player I want to talk about, and this is perhaps kind of the crowning glory of this season, and one that I can't quite believe, and it's Miles Lewis-Skelly and his performance last night. Look, Declan Rice, Mikel Merino, rightly going to get the headlines. Bukayo Saka being back is obviously a humongous story as well. So Miles Lewis-Skelly might not be spoken about too much today or tomorrow or whatever, but he got an assist last night. But not only that, he was just imperious. Made 95% of his passing. 95% of his passes. That's 54 out of 57 passes. 1 assist. Created 2 chances. 8 passes into the final third. It was just It was outrageous. And this kid's 18. He's 18. That's the thing I can't get my head around. This would be a good performance against Real Madrid for a seasoned, grizzly 26-year-old professional who has been around the scene for a long time and has been at multiple clubs and played in the biggest games. This would be a good performance for anyone like that. But Miles Lewis-Skelly wasn't even in the conversation at the start of this season. We weren't thinking about him as a left-back option. And now he's starting in Champions League quarterfinals and producing performances where you don't even you forget he's 18. You forget that this guy's a kid. He was doing homework last year. That's absolutely wild. Last year he was doing homework. Now he's locking down Real Madrid. It blows my mind. What a player. What a young man with that level of composure. I didn't have that level of composure sitting in my bloody living room watching the game last night. He's on the pitch doing it. You have to take your hat off to him. I'm going to bring this to a close because I could genuinely talk about this game all day long. I just want to, just recap a couple of things I said at the start. Mikel Arteta, what a job you've done, sir. The players will be spoken about this morning in all the podcasts, in all the headlines. It will be Declan Rice. It will be Mikel Merino. It'll be players who have done a fantastic job for this club last night and rightly deserve the plaudits. I think they are all to a man, or they were, all to a man, brilliant last night. But Mikel Arteta has set that up. Mikel Arteta is the man who has brought these players together, set the standard for them, set the standard for the crowd, set the standard for the club. And nights like last night they are untouchable. They are untouchable. We still have work to do. We still have to go and get a result in the Bernabeu to get through, to make sure that this isn't forgotten about, to make sure that this wasn't for nothing. We need all of that to come together. But what Mikel Arteta has given us a couple of times this season is moments that we will never forget. I'm thinking of this one. I'm thinking of the Man City game. I'm thinking of the 7-1 versus PSV. Those will go down. We'll look back at the end of this season in a couple of seasons' time and we'll think, wow, do you remember that game? Do you remember that game? How good that was? That's Mikel Arteta's influence. Anyone that thinks Mikel Arteta is not the right coach for this club needs look no further than the 90 minutes of football we watched last night. Not just the players, but the way the fans were interacting, the way the stadium was set up, the way the club came together as one. That is him. He is the driving force behind that, and you cannot take that away from him. Last night will go down as one of the greatest Emirates evenings ever, and I think it's probably one of the greatest individual 90-minute results that Arsenal have ever had and might ever have. Of course, we will hope that we get to a Champions League final now, and we have the result, the one. But no matter what happens now, this evening and the fans that were there and everyone who watched on TV, we will all have that. And that is a very, very special thing. Like I said, we've got to go and get a result. And if there is one team in world football who can take a 3-0 drubbing away from home and think we've still got a chance in this, it's Real Madrid. It's Real Madrid at the Bernabeu, which you've got to be wary of. You've got to be careful of. They can score goals. And they can score goals. Yes, they ship them. And yes, we can score goals. We could go there and get an early goal. If we do that, we are in a great position, of course. But if there's one team that can turn this around, it's Real Madrid. So we still have work to do next week. It's very, very exciting, of course. I will be covering all of it right here on Arsenal Unfiltered. Like I said in the middle, if you enjoyed this episode or any episode of Arsenal Unfiltered, please do consider picking up your phone or wherever you're listening to your podcast on your laptop, finding Arsenal Unfiltered on your podcast app of choice and hitting follow. What that means is you will get podcasts every single week, 3 of them, straight into your feed so that you can keep up to date with all the latest goings on and match reviews around Arsenal. And if you're feeling super generous, please find the review button wherever you get your podcasts from and give us a 5-star review. That is really, really helpful to grow our reach. Like I say, thank you so much for the love on the previous podcast. It's really been great to see, and really hope you guys are enjoying everything that we're bringing. What an evening. What an evening. Like I say, I could talk about it all day, but I'm going to bring us to a close now. Arsenal 3, Real Madrid 0. Declan Rice is a superstar. Mikel Arteta is a genius. And all that's left to say now is thank you for following, thank you for listening, and I will speak to you very, very soon.